And I'm going to be responding to your post, Kevin. We have similar viewpoints on a lot when it comes to collaboration and how to collaborate effectively and how to just waste time. Um, as professionals, we're going to have to be able to put aside our personal differences and our personal agendas on how we would carry out tasks. I feel one of the main things when working with the group is that we have to remind ourselves our purpose in working with this. What is the purpose for me working with these teachers? What's the purpose in working um, um, on this committee? What is the purpose of working with this group? And if we can buy into the purpose, as you mentioned in your article about having shared goals, if we can buy into the purpose of the shared goal or the shared objective for working on that particular committee, for working that particular job, oftentimes we don't believe in the purpose or the mission or the goals within the framework of the group we're working in. So as teachers, even as a special education teacher personally, I have ways that I would go about handling certain issues within the classroom setting that may not be the same way you would, or the same way my paraeducators in my classroom would handle it. But I have to remind myself, and I remind the staff in my classroom, that we come for one shared purpose. We have one common goal, and that's to provide our students with the best, most effective way of curriculum. And as leaders, you mentioned this too. As a leader, you should know, you should be very reflective in your teaching and how you handle things. And being reflective, you can really see your strengths, and you identify your weaknesses. And I think that's important. We always focus. I read a book for one of my classes, and it was the leadership challenge, and it spoke about how as leaders we should know our strengths and we should know our weaknesses, and to embrace our weaknesses and to embrace our strengths. A lot of times we neglect our strengths because we're so focused on making our weaknesses better, which isn't a bad thing, but we have to find balance. And as a leader in hiring, you mentioned, Kevin, that you would rather hire a teacher that has tons of potential rather than a teacher based on their experience. And I can agree with you. You don't want people just to be hired based on what they did. But we're looking where we're in a progressive society that we want to see different things, and we want someone that can be cutting edge, can be a pioneer in education and try new things. We just can't do things the way they were. So in reading the leadership challenge, it talks on that. And it talks as a leader, we shouldn't just find people just that we're comfortable hiring. As a leader, you should look for people that show strengths in the area in which you're weak. And that makes the group stronger, because my strength may be team building and communication, but I may not be as much of a strong writer. So in turn, when I go about, even with my paras, I look for paraeducators within my classroom, because we're able to we're able to participate in the hiring process and picking paras for our class. And I look for paras whose strengths are my weaknesses, and it makes it better, and it makes our classroom flow much more effective. And we know our responsibilities. We know what's required of us. And that's another thing. We have to be clear communicators when we're working collaboratively. It's amazing. I like the dynamics that you mentioned with your classroom, with your workmates. You have a 27-year-old vet, a teacher who's been teaching for 27 years. You are, moderating. You have a newbie, a novice teacher, and you guys don't let your differences get in between you guys. You embrace your differences, and there's always something to be learned. Even when people You may not agree with the way they're going about you may not agree with the way people are trying to install or to use different items. You may go about it differently, but there's always something to be learned. I love that you mentioned about competitiveness. Competitiveness and passion I use are interchangeably. You can be competitive. It's hard to be competitive about something that you're not passionate about. And it's okay to be competitive within reason. You should be competitive or passionate. That competitiveness or that passion should drive you. And personally, if I see someone from playing cards to being a teacher that I see, that I look up to, or I see something that they're doing better than me, my competitiveness and my drive makes me want to get better. But I'm open and I'm willing to take criticism. I'm open and willing to I'm not big enough or caught up in myself, so wrapped up in myself that I won't go to them and ask them, how did you do this? What made you think to do this way? What made you teach this particular lesson that way? Because I find that based on your data, I see that your kids are performing at a higher rate than mine. So I just want to know, what can I do to become more effective in my instruction, so my students can be more effective on their tests and perform at a higher rate. And that's all. Remember, when I started this thing about talking about a shared vision. My vision isn't to be caught up in the way Mr. Miller does things or the way Leon does things, and those are the right way to do them. No, that's not my mission. My mission is to be the most effective teacher that I can be. One more thing, my final point on collaboration. When you have collaboration as teachers that buy into the collaboration, they're more willing to go above and beyond the call of duty. The same way when you have students, when you're teaching and they buy into you and they believe in you as an educator, you build relationships and you build rapport, and you're able to be a little more direct than what you normally would be with a student or individual or a coworker who you don't have a rapport with. And having these rapport by working collaboratively allow us to be honest, and our honesty should make us better. So thanks for posting. Have a great night.